Welcome everybody to Woodstock Vitamins webinar tonight. The topic is mushroom therapy. So let's do mushrooms, or there's a fungus among us. Just a few housekeeping items. You can rewatch this at any time. The slides are going to be posted shortly after this. Any other tools or anything that we've discussed will be available and linked in our show page. If you have questions, you can feel free to ask at any time. And I need feedback, so make sure that you check the follow-up email and let me know how I did. We have a lot of to cover because that's kind of what I do. I just do lots of content as much as I possibly can and try to jam it into as short amount of time as possible. One thing I want to say is this is our last monthly webinar. The time of the year, the time of the night, people's attention span. I understand there's a lot of stuff going on. So we're not going to do monthly webinars anymore. What we're going to do is we're going to reserve them for special events like 2 or 4 times a year. So like our CBD webinar, for example, was gigantic because it was this massive trend that was starting out in the industry. And then all these other monthly informal or informational ones, they're important and they're good, but we're not getting as much traction as we'd like. So instead, we're going to focus our efforts on a YouTube channel, Woodstock Vitamins, and we're going to do stuff like product reviews. We're going to talk about quality issues, disease states, current events, and a lot more. We have a lot of really great ideas, and these will be shorter, like 1 to 5 minutes. Very easy for somebody to pick it up and kind of go through all the different videos that we have. So I'm asking you, our most loyal listeners, to head on over there. You have to Google Woodstock Vitamins in YouTube and subscribe, and that will help us get the page off the ground and get these videos churned out here. So if you don't know who I am, let's talk about that. So I'm a registered pharmacist. I've been practicing for 15 years. I own a pharmacy and supplement store here in Woodstock, New York. I'm the founder of Woodstock Vitamins, the brand that we're talking about, and I'm a holistic pharmacist. And that's largely a made-up term. My goal here isn't to do drugs and push them on people. It's quite the opposite. I want people off their medications. I want them to use nutrition, exercise, stress management, sleep, and yes, supplements to prevent as much disease as humanly possible. And I also know that while our healthcare system is a bit jacked up, I know that the medicines, doctors, and traditional stuff are all part of the whole picture. We can't live our best lives without all 3 pieces: lifestyle, supplements, and medications all together. And a true holistic pharmacist can facilitate this with integrity that the pharmacists are known for. So otherwise, I'm just a big mouth professional who gets a little crazy, asks the tough questions, and takes pictures with the flash on so you can see my receding hairline. What's up with that? I'm gonna have to start taking biotin supplements. So the big thing is you should understand what Woodstock Vitamins is here to do. So I love and we love supplements and natural products. We believe that a holistic approach to health and wellness is the best medicine, but it's difficult for consumers to deal with the flaws of the supplement industry. The products are poorly made, there's a lack of clinical data, and the charlatans are out there spreading misinformation. So we're here at Woodstock Vitamins to try to elevate the product quality, the expertise, and the information. So we exist to bring accountability and integrity to an industry gone wild. We have a podcast. This is largely successful. We can't stop the growth of this. This is awesome. So I really appreciate your support. If you haven't checked this out, definitely check it out. I get to interview a lot of really smart people. It's called The Big Mouth Pharmacist. So go to woodstockvitamins.com/podcast. Another option is to go pod.me/TBMP. And I'm going to put that in the, Diane, I'm going to say all I want about the receding hairline. So I'm going to put that link in the chat box so you can see it. gopod.me/TBMP, and it'll take you to our podcast page on any device, and then you can listen on your favorite app. So we've talked recently about histamine and the misinformation around that. I had a menopause expert on that's going to come back. Weed's been like on my mind. So we talked with celebrity chef Rick Orlando, and he taught us how to cook with weed. And this week's episode that comes out on Friday is about the behind the scenes of a dispensary. And then next week, we'll be talking about whole food supplements. We got lots of really, really great stuff. So check out the Big Mouth Pharmacist if you haven't already. Please subscribe. Give me a nice little review. That would be awesome. This is important to understand that I am a health professional, but I'm not your health professional necessarily. So you always should check with a doctor before you do anything. And don't believe anything you read on the internet, even this. My responsibility here is to be responsible. I'm not like everybody else. I'm not making outrageous claims. I'm giving you real practical advice around the products and what the current evidence shows. So in other words, no BS. I love these drawings. One of my staff does that. She draws comics. I don't know if you guys know that, but every week, every month, I have this new version for you. So I'm sitting on top of a magic mushroom today. So today we're going to talk about what makes mushrooms magic. We're going to talk about mushroom myths. And of course, we're going to talk about mushroom products. And I'm going to give you guys a solid mushroom strategy for adding mushrooms to your regimen if you so choose. But first, I want to give a shout out. The Chiltons. So Sky Chilton is the founder of Real Mushrooms, and Jeff Chilton, his father, is the founder of Namex, which is a mushroom raw material supplier. Sky was on my podcast, and I was reading his content and just kind of learning about him and his dad, and I realized how much we aligned. He was on the podcast, and he's definitely right up our alley. Very, very important to him to put integrity first. Him and his father, and they're leaders in the industry. So a lot of what I'm going to repeat to you has been like really succinctly put out there by these two wonderful guys. So shout out to Real Mushrooms and check them out, realmushrooms.com. They're a new product line in our store. We're partnering up with them, and hopefully both of our businesses will grow by doing the right thing. So, all right, let's get into it here. What is a mushroom? Is there much room for a definition here? I've got lots of mushroom jokes, trust me. So we know what a mushroom is, right? So it's these things, right? We've seen them all out there, all the different types of mushrooms, you know. So like, what is the official definition of a mushroom? So I looked it up, and here's what I found. A mushroom is a fungus that grows a tree. And that, of course, is not an official definition. That's me being stupid because, that's what I do. So, it is a fungus, and it's an interesting type of fungus because we've seen other funguses before. It's not like you get athlete's foot and like little mushrooms grow from that. Maybe if enough time passed, it would. But what makes mushrooms unique is that they are growing a tree. This is the mushroom life cycle, super simplified. This is not an adult-only picture, even though it may look like it. We have to be very careful with this artwork. But essentially what a mushroom is a fungus that releases spores, and those spores then grow this complex roots, almost mesh system called mycelium. And then from that little mushroom, plants will grow. They call it a fruiting body until it becomes a big mushroom with a cap and all of those wonderful parts, all stuff that we're not going to talk about because this isn't a biology lesson. But then they have those little gills that release all the different spores, and the cycle repeats itself. And it's important to understand this because we're going to try to commercialize this to make supplements. But this is basically how a mushroom lives its life. They categorize mushrooms in a bunch of different complicated ways, basically about the size and the shape and like how it looks. And I don't really, it's not for me. It's way too complicated for this webinar. So I just want to use my simple categorization for mushrooms. And this is how I believe all consumers should look at mushrooms, whether they're for medicinal use or otherwise. There are two categories, the mushrooms that'll kill you and the ones that might not kill you. And if we had to separate mushrooms into those two categories, practically all of them will kill you, and maybe like 11 of them will not kill you. So that's what you have to know. And it's very, very easy. Obviously, you can see here to be able to discern between an edible and a deadly mushroom. The one on the left is no, wait, maybe it's the one on the right. I don't know. One of them is edible and one of them is deadly. I don't really know. But I'm making jokes, of course, but both of these are the same thing. This is one of the most deadly mushrooms ever, but it looks super scrumptious from my perspective. It's called death cap. It's one of the most deadly mushrooms. And so like this brings up a really big point that I found in my research here is that people are afraid of mushrooms. It's called mycophobia because a number of species are poisonous. They resemble edible species. It's really hard to tell them apart. Safe mushrooms have compounds in them called hydrazines that are carcinogenic, right? That's normally removed by heat. That's why you have to cook mushrooms. Mushrooms absorb heavy metals almost as good as marijuana and hemp does. And there's no single trait that says this is a bad thing or this is a good thing. So it's really, really difficult to discern. And even the best edible mushrooms can cause anaphylaxis in people. So no wonder why we're scared, right? So my lesson here, my advice, because when I said I was having a mushroom lecture, people said, well, let's talk about foraging. No, it's not for you. It's not for me. It requires meticulous attention to detail, and it should only be underdone by experts. And I'm not that guy, right? So let's focus on what I do know, which is how to use mushrooms. They're not just for dinner. There are 3 uses for mushrooms. Let's go through them. Nutrition. Of course, we eat mushrooms. They have great taste. Medicine. That's the point of the lecture, right? And for fun. Right? Let's get that one up because a lot of people were asking about that. Psychedelic mushrooms. Psilocybin, psilocybin, whatever way you want to pronounce it. It's up to you. I've heard all of them. I even went to the YouTube thing to figure it out, and the YouTube girl said it 3 different ways. So these contain psilocybin or psilocybin, and both of these are compounds that create hallucinatory and psychedelic effects, including euphoria. The nice thing is that these things don't cause addiction or dependence, but if you talk to anybody that's used them, and in fact, there's studies that have shown this, that if you use psychedelic mushrooms, it can produce monumental changes in personality. I kind of want to experiment with these because I feel like I've got some baggage I could unload, but I feel like now, at this point in my life, I don't know. But users rate this as the single best experience in their lives. It sounds like something that I wouldn't want to miss out on, right? It's gaining public acceptance, and I think that's because we're getting a little bit less strict and conservative about our thoughts around drugs, and that's thanks to weed. Clinical investigation for its use in anxiety and depression is up. There's even major hospital centers that are starting research departments based around psychedelic mushrooms. And I'm hoping someday to have one of those researchers on my podcast. So if anybody has a connection, tell them to email me. I'd love to have them on the podcast and make some jokes about psychedelic mushrooms. Mushroom nutrition is an important thing. I think mushrooms taste great, and if you get the right non-deadly ones, they'll enhance the flavors of the mushrooms. Listen to my podcast with the celebrity chef Rick Orlando, and he'll tell you all about all the different spices and things that you can use to make your food taste better. And the funny thing I found is, like, mushrooms are known as the meat of the vegetable world, and they're neither meat nor vegetables, which is so funny. They're mostly water. They're about 90% water. They have carbs, good carbs in them. 2% protein, which is actually really good. And this is why they're considered a meat in the vegetable world, because they're rich in protein for what they are. And they have, polyunsaturated fatty acids, but they're all omega-6s, not omega-3. So they are a healthy food option for sure, but they're small and mostly water. So if you eat an edible mushroom, you're only going to get about 2 grams of protein compared to like 20 grams for a piece of chicken. They do have lots of micronutrients because they are pulling lots of things up from the ground. They're rich in B vitamins, selenium, copper. They have phosphorus, zinc, and potassium. And more importantly, they have a precursor to vitamin D called ergosterol. And if you expose mushrooms or this compound to light, UV light, either sun or artificial, it's going to make vitamin D too. So, and people go, oh, I'm going to eat mushrooms for my vitamin D source. Well, even in the best situation, you're probably going to get about 1 unit per mushroom. So it's really when these are used on a large scale that they can be used to produce vitamin D. Now, the medicinal components found in mushrooms is very, very interesting. There are lots of different compounds here. The big one that I'm going to drum on and on and on about is beta-glucans. Okay, you're going to hear so much about that tonight. But also triterpenes, there's steroid compounds, and then there's compounds that are unique to the individual mushrooms themselves. So like cordycepin and all sorts of fun stuff. So we're going to talk about all of those, but it's important to understand all of the different components of a mushroom and how that will dictate what kind of effects the mushroom will have. So let's talk about beta-glucan. So a beta-glucan is a polysaccharide. Lots of different vocabulary words for everybody here tonight. A polysaccharide, you've probably heard that, polysaccharide, multiple sugars. So it's a chain gang of sugars. On the one hand, we have glucose and single monosaccharides. And then if you link them all together, you make a polysaccharide, a long chain of sugars. That's all it really is. It's just a bunch of sugars in a chain. And you know of some polysaccharides like starch, cellulose, and glycogen, very important polysaccharides. So beta-glucans belong to that family of polysaccharides. And they help with the immune system. So I didn't want to get too much into this because it is pretty complicated, but they have a positive impact on the immune system. Specifically, they'll cause a slight resistance against infectious challenge. So what does that mean? They might help you respond better if you get sick in the future. They may decrease the chance that you get sick. Very interesting, especially from somebody like me who says, you can't boost your immune system. And you technically can't, but these things can certainly enhance some of the functions very well. And specifically, we're looking for the 1,3-1,6 beta glucans, because you can get beta glucans that don't have those specific side chains and arrangements, and those don't have the same immune system impact, right? So this is really important. That's the big role of mushrooms. Magic mushrooms will get you high. Medicinal mushrooms will get you healthy. will stop you from being sick. Now, it is important to remember here that beta glucans are the heavy lifters. So the beta glucan content of a supplement, a mushroom supplement, is the best indicator of the quality and the benefit of it. So beta glucan needs to be tested for, and concentrations of it need to be high. It's not good to just have a little bit. You have to have a lot of it. So here's your first Neal quote of the night. Beta-glucan content is one of the best indicators of quality mushroom supplements. Beta-glucans are polysaccharides, but so are inert compounds like starch or cellulose. So a mushroom supplement that labels only polysaccharide content should be ignored. There are other medicinal compounds, like I said, the triterpenes, which are found predominantly in Reishi products. That is a super strong bitter flavor, and this is something I'm going to kind of harp on a little bit. But triterpenes can help protect the liver. They have anti-tumor effects. They can even inhibit 5-alpha reductase, which is the thing that causes your hair to recede when you're a 40-year-old man. That happens, right? They also have sterols, which are like plant steroids. Another compound, D-mannitol, or nucleosides. All of these different things, they're all parts of mushrooms. And the big take home here is that mushrooms are magical, right? They have all of these different health compounds, healthy compounds, healthful compounds, things that can make humans better. So while there's a lot of them that will try to kill you, the good ones are really, really good. So let's keep going here. One of the things that I like to say, because I'm listing all these microscopic compounds that have the health benefits, but about those. So we can talk about that all day. We can say, the compounds here, they're in lion's mane or they're in reishi, and they have all these great health benefits, but unless we have the ability to measure them, it's really meaningless. And a lot of these compounds we don't, especially when it comes to their amounts in supplements. So any mushroom manufacturer that will talk about the individual components of a mushroom in their marketing materials, they're going to make you think that those things are in their supplements, but they're not. It's like generally talking, saying, oh, fish oil will help cholesterol, but then you get a fish oil product from this company that's rancid, so that's going to actually increase inflammation, and the dose isn't nearly correct. So there's a big difference between the marketing materials and what the product is actually giving you. So it's best to find quality extracts made by companies who are honest about those other compounds. And that's one of the things I like the most about Sky and Real Mushrooms is, like, when we were talking about this stuff on the podcast, he's like, listen, these things are probably in there, and if you handle these mushrooms correctly, you're probably going to get some concentrations, but we can't test for it, so we're not going to talk about it. We can talk about it generally, but we're not going to talk about it as the products containing those things. And I think that's an important thing to kind of differentiate. So just as a review, as I take a sip of my water here, we have lots of different uses for mushrooms. Healthy and tasty food source. They're great for psychedelic fun, and there's medicinal compounds found in there. So let's talk about those medicinal mushrooms. And I think it's more than just a tall turkey tail. What can medicinal mushrooms do? This is a big question, and this is something that I wrestled with and how I was going to include this in here. If you look up what a mushroom does, or even talk about the compounds that we've said, and I've even listed it a couple times about the things that they do. Will a mushroom really help my cancer or my cancer treatment? It's going to help my immune system, even though it has effects on the immune system. Is it really going to help me? Will it give me energy? Will it help me with stress, like all the blogs say out there? And so here's my take. I think that we know, but we really don't know. So there's a lot of small studies out there, but there's not a lot of big studies that we can really hang our hat on. I think that the compounds that are found in mushrooms have been linked to specific health benefits for sure, but the large studies are done on pharmaceutical versions of the mushroom. So they extract out the compounds and modify them. And we really can't say then that turkey tail is going to have the same effect as one of its components. right? So for me, though, the big problem in the industry is that most products on the market aren't even delivering the compounds that have been found to be beneficial in small or large studies. And that's what I can help out with the most. And this is my position in the world. I'm your second stop. I'm totally cool with that. I'm not going to be the guy out there saying, take this for this thing. This is what you need. You're going to hear all of that information out in the ether. In fact, you're going to get kind of sick of it. And if you want to try something, you then come see me. You then come say, okay, so I've heard about this. Now, how valid is it? Or what do I have to know to make sure that I'm getting the best product available? So I'm an advocate of using mushrooms for lots of different uses, but I believe that we have to temper our expectations a little bit. The idea of a mushroom supplement changing the course of cancer prognosis, while it's wonderful, it's not really backed by science yet in specific situations. So there is promise, and for some people that's enough, and I'm cool with that too. So I want you to try well-made mushroom supplements with the approval of your medical team, the real ones with licenses, not these quacks out there that are practicing medicine as unlicensed healthcare professionals. So let's talk about mushrooms. What are the magic medicinal mushrooms? So I've listed 4 of them here. We have cordyceps and chaga and lion's mane and maitake. How many people have actually seen these before? Not out in the wild, but even on the internet. When you look at the supplements, you don't really get to see how kind of gross these things look, right? So this is kind of why I wanted to include that. Really take this in. Look at these mushrooms. Yummy. There are 3 more: reishi, shiitake, and turkey tail. And, just kind of flipping back and forth so that way we can get a good look at these things. Anna's seen these bad boys. So these are the important ones. These are the ones that you should focus on when you're talking about mushrooms. And what I've done here is I've created a little table that talk about the medicinal mushrooms with the claims and what claims are made about them. And if you notice a theme is that almost all of them have some impact on immune support. And that's because they're all rich in beta glucans, which has an impact on the immune system. So if we go through it here, chaga, it's mostly just an immune support mushroom. Cordyceps, though, will help you improve energy and reduce fatigue. There's a lot of really funny stories about cordyceps. Sky on his blog goes over the story. Essentially, Olympic athletes from China did really well. They outperformed everybody by a ton. And they had said that they were taking cordyceps and using goat's blood or something crazy. And so then the cordyceps sales went through the roof, but it was found out years later, of course, that they were doping. So it had nothing to do with the cordyceps at all, but it was believed that it helped improve energy. And for some people, they feel like it does. Lion's mane is interesting. It's one that I recommend because of the neurotrophic effects. Basically, it's supporting your nerves, and people feel it helps out supporting their memory and supporting their concentration, but even has effects on the GI, the tract. Maitake is something that improves your immune system, but also stress and energy. Reishi has a lot of really interesting things. Reishi is the one that a lot of people will lean on around cancer therapies, chemotherapies, and even altitude sickness, which is really interesting. Shiitake support mushroom, and turkey tail is the one that has actual data connected to one of its extracts called PSK. In cancer. So it's really interesting, all these different mushrooms. But for me, deciding how much of which mushroom to use is less important than choosing the proper mushroom product. So I'm going to say that again because I think it's important. Deciding how much of which mushroom to use is less important than choosing the proper mushroom product. Okay, we can talk about all these claims all day long, but if we're getting a product that doesn't have any of those ingredients in there, we're out of luck. I want to talk about cordyceps because anytime you look at cordyceps, you see this picture. Now, I want you to take a really, really close look at that because to me, I was like, oh man, it looks like a bug with a ram's horn. And then when you research it, it is a bug with a ram's horn on it. So cordyceps is actually a parasitic fungus. The spores land not in dirt or grass, but on bugs. And then the spores make a root system inside the body of a caterpillar is what we're looking at here. And then it takes over and then grows out a mushroom out of the face of it, right? So it kind of looks like Loki's helmet if you're into the MCU. So the thing about this is it's very difficult to harvest. If you were able to harvest these, it would be about $20,000 per kilogram. So something like $1,000 a pill. right? And this is Cordyceps sinensis, which is the parasitic kind, right? So the cultivation of it is obviously difficult, and China's made some progress, but not enough to actually lower prices on the market. So most companies will put Cordyceps in this picture. I challenge you to go to Google and type in Cordyceps, and probably 9 out of 10 pictures will be this picture, even though 10 out of 10 products won't have any of this stuff actually in there. What will be in there, though, are 3 potential things. Bootleg Cordyceps, which we're going to talk about a bunch later. Cordyceps CS4, which is a unique, like what they call anamorph, or like something kind of similar but a little bit different of Cordyceps, and it's made in a unique way. It's not made traditionally. They use what's called liquid fermentation. Against, I'm trying not to be so nerdy and into all the science, but that's what it's called. Or it could be what's called Cordyceps militaris, which is this stuff that looks like, like do-it-yourself popsicles that's got mold on it, is basically what that looks like, or like a Cheeto farm. Is this how Cheetos are made? But anyway, so Cordyceps militaris is a slightly different species with a high yield of beta glucans compared to CS4, which was like, an advantage over the sinensis. So 25% of beta glucans versus 10%. The other nice thing is that the Cordyceps militaris is rich in cordycepin, almost 90 times more than the parasitic form that grows on gross caterpillars. So my goodness, right? So this is something interesting to know, is that most Cordyceps products aren't what's pictured here, this gross little caterpillar with a horn, but instead some other derivation of it. So let's get our shiitake together here and talk about mushroom manufacturing, because it gets into the products, and that's what we're really here for, right? So again, this is the life cycle: spores, mycelium, primordia, and then it grows a mushroom. And that's what we want to do. We want to commercialize nature and want to make this work in our advantage, so that way we can farm this stuff. So if you can see this, I hope you can see it. There are 2 major steps here. The first thing is that we have to get the growth medium that the mushroom's going to grow on, and we have to sterilize it to make sure that nothing else grows in there, like other funguses or mold or bacteria, right? So they actually use sawdust. Sawdust or wood-grown mushrooms are of the best out there. So they'll get it, and then they'll throw them into like heat resistant bags, and then they're going to sterilize that bag in like a big autoclave. Then the second step is that they're going to put our little spores into the sawdust, close it up, and then you're going to start to have the mycelium system, the root system, kind of grow. And then it goes into a nice warehouse, and then little mushrooms pop up, right? And the next part is they take all those mushrooms and they pull them out of the mycelium, and then they're going to do what's called hot water extraction. So they're going to use like hot water, and they're going to pull out all the really good, important, healthy stuff. They evaporate off the water, and then they spray dry it, and then it becomes this beautiful powder that becomes our supplement. And the reason I tell you is because there's a lot of important things to remember here. If you ever wanted to know, this is how mushroom products are born. Wood growth substrate is the best. Hot water extraction is crucial to making this correctly. In fact, if you think about it, how are most mushrooms ingested? Well, in soups and teas, which is a hot water extraction of those active compounds. And the growing and harvesting and manipulating is of actual mushrooms. And again, I only say that and stress it is because a lot of the times mushroom products have no actual mushrooms involved. Yikes, right? Another important fact that most people don't know is that almost all mushroom supplements have to come from China. Not like have to, but they do, because of, well, lots of reasons. It's got an ideal climate. Labor costs are super low, unfortunately. And it's not a bad thing, because we think of, bad stuff coming from China, normally filled with contaminants and stuff, because Jeff, the founder of Namex, Sky's dad, brought organic farming of mushrooms to China like 40 years ago. So he's the leader. He's the guy that taught a lot of the more reputable places how to do it correctly. But otherwise, China is accounting for like 80 or 90% of the production of mushrooms. And the reason I tell you this goes to that idea about mushrooms not being mushrooms, because if you know that China is the one that's responsible for all the growth, you'll understand and avoid these misrepresented products that are out there. So I want to do some math. Imagine your mushroom product says it's grown in North America instead of China. Well, here's why that can't happen. So if we grow non-organic shiitake here in North America, it's going to cost about $10 a kilogram. And as I said, most mushrooms are about 90% water. So if you want a kilogram of dehydrated mushroom, you're going to need 10 kilograms of fresh stuff because most of it is water weight, right? So that's brought our price up tenfold. So now it's $100 per kilogram just to get dried shiitake, non-organic mushrooms. Then you have to extract it, and that's going to add at least $50 per kilogram, and then you're further reducing it down. So we're at over $150 per kilogram just to use something in North America. So in real life, you started out with 10 grams of raw mushroom that you got from North America, and it's yielding less than a kilogram of extract powder. So that's over $150 per kilogram, where in China they can do it for 40 or $50. Right? 3 times the cost to have it done in North America. And that's just a 1-to-1 extract. That's where it's cheap and it could kind of pass. But like Reishi is a 15-to-1 extraction, meaning that you would need 15 times the amount or $2,300 per kilogram. That means your capsules would be about $5 per 2 capsules or 1 gram dose. And I don't know of any Reishi product made in America that is priced that high. Nobody would pay it. Right? That's like $200 a bottle. So if someone's saying that their Reishi is North American grown and it's less than $5 a pill or some obscene number, there's a good chance that they're lying. It's almost never economically feasible to grow medicinal mushrooms in North America. Edible, yes. Medicinal, not so much. But my mushrooms are grown in North America, and they don't cost a lot of money, says the consumer. That's getting a little bit annoyed at the fact that they're getting screwed here too. And here's my answer. They're not real mushrooms. And, so we know that's true. They're out there kind of telling us, but it's always good to do, clinical study, like behind the scenes, behind the curtain analysis of products that are on the market. And that's what happened. Nature in partnership with the United States Pharmacopoeia, USP, they did a study in 2017. They looked at 19 different Reishi products, but they won't tell us who, right? And only 5 passed their test that were like authentic Reishi. Namex, the Chilton's company, had 3 of the 19 and accounted for 3 of the 5 that passed. So they were 100% on the ball. And so if you want to take a look at that article, you can definitely do that. Their link is there. But this is just kind of like real clinical validation of something that everybody in the industry knows. And it's that they're making bootleg mushrooms. So what are they doing differently? And here's where it really breaks down. And so I did the blog article on this recently. Most mushrooms aren't magic. Check it out. But essentially, instead of sawdust, we're using rice. So we're putting rice into these mixtures, throwing into the bags, and then sterilizing the rice. Then we inoculate the rice and we grow the roots just like we did with everything else. But instead of then harvesting mushrooms off of that, we then bottle that rice root mix up. So it's myceliated rice is what it's called. So it's just the root system of the mushroom, no actual mushrooms, and rice. And they put it in a bottle and they call it Reishi. So it's just like whole food vitamins, right? They put synthetic vitamins, some scraps of yeast, and they say that's a whole food. And in this situation, they're saying this is a mushroom. And I don't know any mushroom that's just roots and rice. So most mushrooms on the market are myceliated rice. Mycelium have some beta-glucan activity, and people are like, well, mycelium, that'll do something. But it's negligible. It's like 2% compared to the 20% that most mushroom supplements will have. And it's not possible to take the mycelium and then separate it from the rice. So 50% or more of the product is just rice. You're paying for rice and roots. And you're paying a lot of money for rice. I mean, the San Francisco treat is not very expensive. So the companies then will report polysaccharide content. Remember, beta-glucans are polysaccharides, and the number is going to be high, but not because of beta-glucans or because of mushrooms. No mushroom is grown or harvested at all in this process. And the high polysaccharide count, it's due to rice, which is a starch. Remember, and that's why I wanted to separate those concepts out for you earlier. So the products look great because people aren't informed about beta-glucans and the deception around mushroom manufacturing, but y'all are now. So how do you know? What do you do? So you can look for some terms like US grown, mycelium, myceliated brown rice, mycelial biomass. All of these different things are ways for them to kind of say, hey, we're not really selling you mushrooms, even though there's a picture of a mushroom on the bottle and we're saying it's a mushroom. We're selling you garbage. One of the other things that we always like to used to do in the store here was to do the taste test. So we said that reishi is rich in triterpenes. So then that means if you put that on your tongue, it's going to be really, really bitter. So we'll open up somebody's mushroom and then open up ours and have people check. And you'll see really, really quickly that the mushrooms that you're buying are mostly free of triterpenes because they have no bitter taste. In fact, some mushroom companies advertise it and they say no mushroom taste, and that's a bad thing. It's kind of like aloe. Everybody wants that clear aloe, and I'm like, well, that means that there's no actual aloe in there because the compounds in aloe are brown, and your aloe should be super dark. So. And then the other thing you'll see is that the company will label their amount of active and compounds by polysaccharides, but not beta glucans. And that's an important differentiation. You have to remember polysaccharides is just like saying how much starch or rice is in the compound, where beta glucans is talking about the specific health beneficial compounds found in a mushroom. And so I made this interesting connection when I was thinking about this. Remember how difficult I said it is for you to compare an edible versus a deadly mushroom? Is it on the left? Is it on the right? We are not experts. It's super difficult to find out. Well, that same thing is happening as we're foraging in the retail environment, right? It's difficult for us to be able to tell the difference between a crappy mushroom and a real mushroom. Right? It's impossible unless you have a trained eye, right? And that's why I'm telling you right now, like it's very difficult for you to get that trained eye. I'm going to give you some information. We're going to give you some tips, but really until you talk to an expert on product quality, I know a guy pointing at his own head. So that you're gonna be lost. You're gonna potentially get something that's not what you think it is. And so it's very important to remember that as we said, it's difficult for us to find edible mushrooms versus toxic mushrooms. It's as difficult for us to find real mushrooms versus bootleg fake mushrooms. So we're going to help you identify these quality mushrooms of foraging, except we're going to do it in a store. And this is just some general supplement advice that I want to give you guys. When you're buying a supplement, don't look at reviews. Right? Don't listen to word of mouth. Oh, my friend told me. Oh, I saw this review about this product. Reviews are faked. In fact, that's an entire section of any conference I've been to that talks about online stores. How do you increase the number of views without people knowing that you're increasing the number of reviews, right? You're not picking a hotel or restaurant or on vacation, so who cares what somebody else's experience was? That doesn't really inform you. We shouldn't use that same shortcut to pick out supplements or medicine for that matter. This front of my botanical elderberry syrup looks really pretty, right? But in ours, we try to be super transparent and not put marketing claims and that kind of stuff. But this is marketing. Okay, and I want you to ignore the front of any supplement bottle. If you see something that says reishi mushroom, we need to prove that it's actually reishi mushroom. So we have to look past the front of the label and the marketing materials and look at the supplement facts panel for something closer to the truth. And we have to really understand what the facts panel is saying. We can't just look at it and go, oh, we're good. So let's step through a few different examples of mushroom supplements, and I'll show you some of the dirty tricks that are going on out there. So if we're looking at this, we see that this says reishi. Right? Oh, okay, this is a reishi supplement. But if you look, it's actually telling us right on the label here, reishi mycelium, right? So this is mycelium is a root, not a mushroom, it's a root. So they're coming out and straight up telling that this is not mushrooms. You're getting 1,000 milligrams in 2 capsules of root system. And even more so in the other ingredients, they're pointing out that they're using brown rice, okay? There's no mention of any active constituents. They're not even telling you that there's any polysaccharides or beta glucans, right? So when you look at the supplement facts panel, no matter what it says on the front, you can see the truth. This is a mycelium product. This isn't real reishi mushroom. This is a lie. So let's look at this one. I'm not going to click on anything. So reishi, oh, there it is, mycelia, right? So there's the root right there, and it's got no active components. So we have to assume then that the beta glucan content here is 0 because we're just talking about the root system. The other thing here is like they'll put some marketing stuff on the back on these supplement facts panels. Freeze dried, air dried. What the heck does that mean? Right? What does that have to do with anything? Right? That's not indicating any quality. It's just adjectives to make you feel like it's more than what it is. Because imagine if you just put reishi mushroom, right? Whole mushroom and reishi mycelia. Like it would look pretty generic. So they're adding in these adjectives to kind of spice it up a little bit. This one's a bit of a mess. There's a lot of different ingredients here. So we go top to bottom. It's got a reishi fruiting body. So again, whole mushroom, right? And then we have an extract, but there's no mention of any polysaccharides. It's got a bunch of other stuff. So it's basically just showing you the weight of the mushroom. There's no test for any active components. So again, we're looking at this. It says reishi, but we have to assume that the beta glucan content is 0 because they're not testing for it. They're not proving that they have any in there at all. Again, they're talking about fruiting body and they're talking about extracts, but the amount of the extract is super small. And then they've got all these other herbs in there. And something you probably missed, which a lot of people do, is the serving size. I know I missed it the first time I checked it out. I'm like, wait, how are they fitting all this stuff into one capsule? And then I realized they're not. It's 4 capsules. So how many people don't even look at the instruction of the serving size and they just take 1 or 2 pills, right? Because most people will say take 2, mushroom supplement capsules. That's what the dose is. Well, if you don't take 4, you're not going to be getting anywhere near the dose that you need. And even then, you're still well below the recommended doses. So it's very, very important. And what I want to kind of sit here and talk about is this concept of whole mushroom versus extract versus active constituents. Remember when we talked about this whole process, we start out with whole mushroom. So we start out with this big wet, 90% water mushroom. We have to dehydrate it down, and then we have to extract out of it the active constituents and the active components, right? So those are 3 separate things: the original whole mushroom, the extract, and the active constituents. We want a product that's using extract because that means it doesn't have all the extra fluff and junk of a whole mushroom, right? And then we want to know how much of the active constituents are in that extract. And none of the labels that I've showed you here have done that correctly at all. They're all Reishi products. They all sell for like $40, just so you know. So you're getting completely hosed. You're not getting any active ingredients. And people are buying this stuff left and right. These are not like rogue products. These are the top Reishi products on the market. So let's look at this one. This one kind of looks a little bit different. It says organic reishi. It doesn't say anything about mycelium. It's actually testing for stuff, right? So it's got a good dose per 401 capsule. That's good, right? They're measuring the triterpenes. That's an important thing in reishi. That's what I just taught you guys, right? That's the bitter component. But it's still only testing for polysaccharides. And that's a problem. We don't want to use this product because it's testing for polysaccharides. But wait 1 second. This is a Vitality approved product. That's one of the products that Neal gave the thumbs up for. Right? What's going on, Neal? Comic Sans and all. Mushroom Science is a Vitality approved brand. And this label is a label of their reishi. I like to just use that guy again. They do hot water extracts. They have no mycelium-based products at the time of this webinar, of course. Things change all the time, but they're only labeling the polysaccharide content and not the beta-glucan levels. But I know what's up. I know what they're doing. I know that they're using the proper raw materials. I know what they're doing. And in the future, they're going to be changing to show their tests of beta-glucan levels. So they're still Vitality approved, but it's an important thing that we're pivoting and saying that from now on, we need to see the levels of beta-glucans, not the levels of polysaccharides. So it's how our model kind of evolves as we get more intel from the experts, because it's really difficult to stay on top of all this stuff. So this is what a good supplement label would look like. This is Real Mushrooms, of course. They do a great job explaining this stuff. You can see that it's reishi. It's an extract. It has a good dose, 1,000 milligrams in 2 pills. It's got beta-glucan specifically put here. And if something is on the supplement facts panel, that means that they have to have that in there. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is in there. And the only reason I know that it is because I know that we can trust these guys. But it's important that they're even specifying that it's on there. If they specify that it's on there and it's not, they can be in big legal trouble. If they don't specify that it's on there, then they can skate around the rules. So we want to see beta glucans on there. We want them to proudly tell us that it has a good amount of beta glucans. It's got the triterpenes, right? And even real mushrooms will say this has starch in it too, because of course you're going to have starches because you're breaking apart a mushroom. So remember, chitin and the stuff that makes up the cell wall and the structure of a mushroom is a polysaccharide. So they're measuring and they're telling you that we're having a very, very low amount of starch compared to other products that are going to have high percentages. So that's why I like this company, because they're very, very transparent with their labels and they're doing a really good job educating people on this. So a true quality mushroom product is going to pass physical inspection. So you're going to look at the label. You're not going to get BS'd about it. The powder color is going to look like a deep, dark color, not like a light, bland color that's over processed or looks like rice powder. And it's going to be super bitter most of the time based on the different products, right? It's going to be 100% mushroom. There's going to be no mycelium involved in this because we're harvesting mushrooms, not roots. It's going to use extracts, and those extracts are going to be consistent with real scientific data. So if we know that we need a 15:1 ratio of reishi extract, it better freaking have it in there, right? So the beta glucans are going to be measured and labeled. We're going to be proud about how much is there, and definitely organic certified, because all of this stuff is coming from China. So unless it's certified organic, we can't say that it's going to be of the quality that you need. And there's more steps to this. And Sky, we went over it in the podcast about the heavy metal testing and all this other stuff. But for consumers, this is what you want to look for. And it's got no added grain like rice or the other fillers. Okay. So just to kind of harp on this, what we do here is we approve products. So I'm not just selling anything. I'm not selling any product that is popular or has a high profit margin for us. A product that gets sold here, it meets or exceeds my rigorous evidence-based standards for quality and supplement categories. So there's fluctuations all the time of product or brand recommendations due to the changing quality landscape. We find out something new and we make changes or adjustments, and we kick brands to the curb if we have to. So our model doesn't change, it just evolves. And a lot of the times I use my own label because it provides a level of transparency that is unavailable from most brands. I have to beg brands to give me quality data, and they're really resistant to do that. When it's in our brand, they are required legally to give me all of that quality data, and we request it and we review it. So in my eyes, I can't do mushrooms on my own, so I'm looking to Real Mushrooms. Again, honorable mention. I'll say Mushroom Science is still a good company, especially once they put those label changes in place. We're gonna, love them the same. But I'm really pushing towards Real Mushrooms. What I found is that their doses are great and their prices is amazing. Like Real Mushrooms is a very low cost brand, and this is even better. So I want to teach you a strategy on how to use mushroom supplements. Again, you're going to go out there, you're going to say, I want to use lion's mane for my brain health or whatever. And so what do you do? How do you use it? Well, I'll tell you to look for capsules or powders. The liquid products are normally falling into line with the myceliated products. The stability is really poor. Stay away from liquids, okay? Use capsules or powders. To figure out how much you need, it's really tough, right? So typically you're getting about a gram of whatever extract, whether that's in capsules or powder. That's typically the dose that most, typical dose that most people will be getting. But some studies will have people taking like 3 grams or more. So you have to figure out what you're using the product for. So again, go out there and research. I want to use lion's mane because I heard it's good for the brain versus I saw a study and I want that same effect. So, well, in that situation, we have to understand what dose was used in that study, and then we have to help you achieve that dose. So in general, it's 2 capsules of the real mushrooms because that's about a gram of the extract, and they're usually taken at the same time. And combo products are a really great option. So say you want to get the immune effect, well, you can use the different mushrooms to really boost the beta glucan count up pretty high. And there's even some conversations about, is it good to pulse these things and to switch on and off? And that's, again, a very complicated thing. I would say to get started, it's probably best to just pick one and go with it. And, again, make sure that you're getting a really good product. So I'm here to help you be a fun guy. If you have any mushroom related questions, don't hesitate, reach out to me. It's no truffle at all. I told you I got mushroom jokes. You can reach me at 845-521-7455. You can email me, Neal at woodstockvitamins.com, or go to woodstockvitamins.com and click the chat link. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to take questions now. Please join us again. Again, we're not going to be doing webinars anymore on the regular monthly schedule. We're going to be starting a YouTube channel with short videos, and we hope to see you over there. All right. Let's do the questions for all you great people that have joined me live. So Tracy is saying, for the products with the pulverized rice, you're not only not getting real mushrooms with active medicinal ingredient, you're probably getting a dose of arsenic from the rice. And how true is that, Tracy? Because arsenic is being found in high concentrations in rice. And that's part of the reason why we kind of kicked out all the brands of protein powder that we used to carry. So yeah, that's a big concern, is the amount of arsenic found in rice products. So what kinds of questions do you guys have for me? Do you have any questions about mushrooms? Do you have questions about other supplements? We got 9 minutes. I was able to get 50 minutes in. Man, that's great. So you were taking Mushroom Science Lion's Mane, but I thought I saw rice. Am I wrong? So I don't think that there's rice in that product. They measure polysaccharides, not beta glucans. I don't think it's a bad idea to switch to the real mushrooms. And in fact, tonight you're going to get 15% off real mushrooms. If you guys want to try it in your email, I definitely would recommend that. Monica's here. She's talking about Mushroom Science Coriolis Super Strength because I had lung cancer, and this is supposed to support the reduction of lung tumors. What do you think about this product versus real mushroom? I'm for it. I still think that real Mushroom Science is a Vitality approved product. I'm hoping that their label change comes in sooner rather than later. A little behind the scenes, Sky said that Jeff Chilton, his dad, is friends with the owner and like talks well about him. So like we're good about it. You know, I think that I think that product is great, you know. Thanks, Hannah. Why would I want to try mushrooms at my age? Well, that's a good question, George. So as we were talking about, and I can kind of back it up here, there's a lot of different uses for them. A lot of people that are older, they look to lion's mane because the neurotrophic effects that they claim improve memory, improve concentrations in concentration, and then the immune support benefits too. So normally if somebody's like, hey, I heard mushrooms are good, which one would I try? So I'll normally push somebody towards like lion's mane to start, a blend if they're looking for immune support, or if they're concerned about like chemotherapy, radiation, dealing with that with approval of their team, we'll normally do like a turkey tail or a cordyceps or something like that. Yeah, Charlene visited us in Woodstock, and that's something I always open up to everybody. If you come by, visit, say hi, that'd be awesome. People need to visit Woodstock more. It's an amazing community. It's blowing up more than it ever has, and I've been here for about a decade now. And you know, so Charlene was in town, and she's like, I think that's Neal, while I was walking by getting a coffee, because I started to drink coffee now. So I don't know if you guys can tell I'm a little hyped up, but. All right, gang, I'm going to take off too. If there's no more questions, I'll hang around for another like 30 seconds or so. But otherwise, I'm going to take off. You're coming to Woodstock? I'm not going to be here this weekend. Oh, no. It's my birthday this weekend, so I'll not be here on Saturday. But I'm going to be at I'm doing on Sunday a retreat. I'm going to be the speaker. So I'll be around Woodstock on Sunday. And yeah, so that's that. Monica's asking, what's the evidence for lion's mane being helpful to the brain? Great question. There is a lot of data out there on PubMed. If you want, you can just email me, Neal at woodstockvitamins.com. I'll send you some links, and you can share it with your doctor to determine if it's right for you. But I feel like there's enough evidence there to say, hey, let's give it a shot to see just like how do I respond to it after taking it for like 30 to 90 days. All right, guys, that's it. We'll see you in a little bit. We'll figure out what the next webinar will be about, something super hot and super trendy, I'm sure. And we'll make it a big one, probably February, I think, is the next one. So, and we'll talk to you guys on our podcast, and we'll talk to you on our rants, and we'll talk to you on our weekly newsletter and our videos. So thank you for the support. Thanks for coming to listen to me. I appreciate it, and talk to you soon.